All right, hey, thanks for joining. This is Side 9 Homestead. My name's Sean, and today I wanted to specifically answer a lot of questions about the mini ChudBox. So I have these all sitting out on our lean-to that we put up beside our, well, we were calling it the Blackstone Cookhouse, but we might end up turning that into a garage bar, a gar bar, and really decking it out on the inside with lights and all kinds of cool stuff with a bar and whatnot. But well, watch for those videos. But anyway, back to this video. So we do have the mini ChudBox with our other items out here on our lean-to, and we had to get covers for it because we noticed there was a lot of dew in the morning, and that they were all getting covered with dew, depending upon the humidity and all that stuff. So we put covers on everything. That's helped a great deal, obviously, since it's under shelter and it has a cover. But because the lean-to is open on three ends, there was still a lot of moisture getting on the cover. So I put this sunscreen that we can roll up and down on it to try to keep the moisture off of the lean-to, and it's worked. So just having that one side with the windscreen, rain screen, it's kept the moisture from covering our covers here. So that worked out well. All right, so let's talk about the mini ChudBox. First thing I did was I bought this cover. It was kind of hard to find one. Luckily, I found one with the right dimensions. And what's really nice about this cover is it's got these cinches on the side, Velcroed. So it really locks it down. It's long enough. It fits almost perfect. I mean, you would think that it was made for the mini ChudBox. I'll put a link to this cover in the description below. But just in case I can't put the link in there, this is it on Amazon, so you can stop this and pause it if you want to, but there's the dimensions. It fits perfect. It's not too snug, it's not too loose. And when I bought it, it was only like $15, but it's $19.99 now. It went up to a ridiculous amount. I looked 2 weeks ago and it was like $35, so now would be a good time to buy it. But that's it there. Works great. All right, so let's take the cover off here real quick. All right, there's the ChudBox in all its glory with the new paint job. Now, we've used it many times since we painted it, so there's probably going to be some grease and some oils and some fat and stuff on it. So, I mean, it's not going to stay pretty, right? I mean, we can clean it with rags like we do just to keep it looking good. But you'll get grease stains and whatnot. So, I mean, I could see maybe painting this once a year, maybe every other year. So when we first got the ChudBox, we did what everybody said to do. We took our Pam spray and we coated the entire thing, even the tray on the bottom, but we coated the entire thing. We took the temperature gauges out, and other than that, I mean, we sprayed everything. We opened up the lid. We sprayed everywhere, everything. We did our first cook. Well, not cook, but burn off. So we heated it up just to get everything baked in. And then we just started using it from there. We made many videos, many more meals on it. And it's worked great. But over time, we started seeing little tiny rust spots on top. Just a discoloration. And we saw some on the side here and down below, so we used more Pam. And then we use coconut oil on all of our cast iron. Best stuff ever for cast iron. So I ended up coating the entire box with coconut oil, and we ran it a couple times after that, but we started seeing a little bit more rust spots. So we want this thing to last forever, or, as long as possible at least, right? So what we did was I took some acetone, can of this, right? And some rags and wiped the entire thing down. It was painstaking. We wiped the exterior completely down. Took the temperature gauges out, wiped it down to get all the oil off completely. So that was fun, right? So we took all the oils off, and really rubbed it down on the exterior everywhere. And then once we did that, we took, on some of the rust spots, as we wiped it down with the acetone, it pretty much took all the spots off, because again, it was just discoloration. Luckily, we caught that way in time. But there was one or two spots on the bottom shelf that obviously doesn't heat up. So just having oil sit on there really didn't do much. So there was a few spots on the bottom, that you could kind of feel like a little, I don't want to say bumper, a little bit. You could feel the spot kind of, sort of. And after that, I was like, that's when I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to, clean it off, paint it, and preserve it. But on those spots on the bottom, I used wet sandpaper, the black sandpaper. So this is wood sandpaper. Do not use this because this will scratch everything up. But, I just went and got the black sandpaper, which is good for using in water. And I think it was either 1,000 or 1,200 grit, which is almost like just using paper. So I used the wet sandpaper. Again, don't use that. Use the black 1,000 grit, 1,200 grit. I forget which one it was. I only had one piece. And then I lightly sanded the bottom to get those little imperfections out, is what I'll say. So that worked well. And then I dried everything off. And then I took out the temperature gauges. And this has rivets on it. I thought about taking the rivets out because I'm assuming that those are just aluminum, because I looked online. Aluminum melts at 1,220 or 1,280 degrees, I think is what I read. So that might be what those are, or they might be steel. But I didn't want to screw them out, drill them out, and then, have something else go wrong. So all I did was I took the blue tape, the blue painter's tape, and I just taped around it, left it on. If I start seeing rust in here, what I might do is just spray paint a little brush and maybe just try to brush in there versus drilling those out, and then popping new rivets in. I'll have to wait and see. Well, I'll see what happens. But okay, so I washed it all down with the acetone, and then I bought this Rust-Oleum High Heat Ultra. And once it was all dry, all I did was, and I'm sure a lot of you have always used spray paint and you know how to paint, right? But I'm going to give this video to folks that don't know how to paint. So it's got to be a nice non-windy day, right? And when you start painting, you always start from outside the edge, and then you just do a nice light coat all the way over past the edge, because if you start right here, you're going to get a buildup right there because you're not moving. So you want to start at the end and then stroke all the way over to the other side off. And you want to hold it out far enough, I would say, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches, maybe a little more, because what you don't want to do is put it on heavy, have a run, or even have the paint start to sag, right? So that's all we did. I mean, I just put on very light coats. I did one light coat. I got all the edges really well. One light coat on the whole thing, and there were some places where obviously I didn't get the oil off good enough. So what I did then was I just took a felt-free rag like this. This one is just a regular shop red towel, and I've washed it and used it multiple times. So this was perfect because there was no felt or particles left. And then all I did was put a little acetone on. So if I found a spot like right here, you could see bubbles because I didn't get all the oil off. Here, let me look right here. Like you'd see like little bubbles. So this happened in a couple places. You would see little bubbling. So all I did was take some acetone on here and I just rubbed it down. And it took all the paint off down to the metal, obviously, right? But it kind of feathered the edges. So when I came back through with more spray paint, you would never know that I actually took off the paint all the way down to the metal and got off all that oil, grease, whatever you want to call it, off of it. And it all blended in really nice by doing that. And no matter how much I tried to get all of the oil off, the palm oil or even the coconut oil, I still miss spots. Even like down here somewhere, I miss spots on the door. So that way of using the red rag with the acetone worked perfect, because then I would just come back again with very light strokes far away from it, so you didn't get any sags. There was one place I did have a sag because I just put too much paint on it one time, but I took the acetone rag again and I wiped it off, and I mean, you would never know. You can't see it because again, it just really smoothed it out really nice. So we've used this multiple times. There's only a few spots where the paint kind of rubbed off because there was tight tolerances. There's one, the handle here, just by moving it up and down, it kind of, you didn't get the paint on you, but it's wearing off on heavy use areas. So that's to be expected. I mean, it would be different if this was a powder coating, or, you know, after we painted it, we put it in some kind of heat booth to really cure it up. But I have no complaints. We've used it multiple times and it's doing really well. Okay, so the bottom, I mean, obviously when you do the bottom, they say use PAM or oil, but you know, you want to put stuff down there, you don't want it slippery. That's not going to heat up, it's not going to bake in or anything. So doing the PAM from the get-go won't work, right? So that's why I opted for the paint. So I went and painted the bottom, the legs, everywhere, so that way everything's protected. So that's pretty much what we did. Oh, and the inside, we did spray it down, not with paint, but you know, we did use the PAM. We sprayed everywhere inside here with PAM. So I would strongly encourage everyone to do that. And I would spray PAM on the inside of the box regularly, maybe, you know, once a month, or, you know, something, just so that you keep the inside nice and oiled up and protected. So I think I went through everything. Cover works nice. Paint so far is working nice. When you paint it black though, there were a couple scratches from the manufacturer that, you know, you just can't get out. So, I mean, there's a scratch that the paint just doesn't hide, right? There's another scratch, but the paint coated it, so you can't really see it unless you're up close like that. But they were pretty big gouges. I guess I could have taken a grinder and sanded it down, but I didn't want to risk, you know, doing anything to the smooth surface. So I just painted over it. That's not going to bother me. This is made for cooking. Grease and oil and everything's going to splash all over this eventually. And I will clean it and paint it next year if I have to. I mean, the can of paint was $6. I think I used 2 cans because I put on a couple coats, and then I fired her up and baked the paint in. All right, I think that's pretty much what we've done. And I've showed everything, the 1000 grit black sandpaper, the acetone. I showed you the acetone already to clean off all the oil and the grease. And I would recommend, I only did it once all over, and I thought I did it really well. I would recommend doing it 2 or 3 times to get off all the oil. Don't forget to paint underneath the tray, and don't forget to paint underneath the bottom of the burn box. Paint that really well too. Other than that, I think we're good. Thanks for watching.